Hey, welcome back. In the previous section, we took a deep dive into the product page and we created a custom dropdown where we can choose a different size, a different color, and it adds to the cart. But this is pretty far from what we actually want to build. We have a pretty nicely styled product page here. So let's introduce some styling. But there's one thing I want to touch upon before we dive into styling, and that's Vue.js. The previous lecture involved a lot of different concepts from Vue.js, and if you felt a little bit lost during this lecture, I definitely recommend you to check out a free course on Vue.js by Vue Mastery. So on the introduction page here, you can just click on Vue Mastery, and you're taken to their intro course. And it's an absolutely free course, and it gives you a great introduction into Vue 3. So although I'm not going to be diving that deep into Vue in this course, I definitely recommend you to check out all of the basics here. But if you're pretty familiar with programming, you should be able to pick up most of the concepts just from my course alone. But it's always nice to reference some of the basics here, and it's a free course, so why not? So you can find this course at vuemastery.com, and I'm also going to have the link attached to this lecture. Anyways, enough of that. In order to start styling, the first thing we're going to want to do is change our application.css.liquid to include Sass. And we can just do that by adding an S before the CSS. So let's open that file. And there are a few things to note with the Shopify Sass version. It is not the most up-to-date version. So Shopify does not include things like import, and they have even depreciated Sass just earlier this year. But that's not to worry. There's an easy workaround that we're going to do at the end of the course that's going to convert all of our Sass into regular CSS. And Shopify released a great article on why they decided to depreciate Sass for Shopify themes. And it goes into all of the different kinds of measurements that they took, where the Sass style sheets took around 200 milliseconds to load, while just the regular liquid CSS style sheet was only 300 milliseconds. So if you're interested in learning more, I'm going to have the link to this attached to this lecture. But again, this is not going to affect us because we can still use Sass as we could before, but we can also convert our Sass to CSS whenever we finished the majority of the styling. So back inside our code, since we changed this file here, we'll have to go into our theme.liquid and make the change here as well. And if you notice, we're not putting .liquid here at the end. So let's hit save on that. The other thing that we want to do before we start is to include a reset file. A reset file basically just resets all of the basic styling that comes with any CSS project that we begin with. So I'll have this link in the description as well. And we'll just copy all of this here. And we can just paste it into our application.scss. And in this, we're basically setting all of the padding to 0. We're removing any list styles. And I like to do this just to reset anything that might interfere with the styling that we're going to have. Now let's take a look at what we want to do. So right now, our buttons are styled pretty generically like that. And we want our buttons to look more like this. So let's take a look at how our product page looks like now. We have the product template, which contains the whole product page pretty much. Then we have the product images, product description, and then product bottom. And this is the left side and this is the right side. Let's clean this up a little bit. Let's remove the product option row and the theme.liquid. And then inside of the application.scss, we'll go down a few lines and we'll create some commas. And we'll say start product page. And then we'll go into product template. And if we look here, we have some padding at the top and padding at the bottom, on the sides as well. And then we have the header at the top there. So we'll give the padding top 24 pixels, and then we'll do display grid. And the grid template columns, which is the two columns that we want to have, we'll do a calculation here. So we'll say 100% minus 25 pixels, and then we'll divide that by 2. And that's for the first one, and for the second one, for the second side, we'll do the same thing. And actually for the padding at the top, it should be 25. I actually turned off my terminal. So we need to do theme watch again. So this is a good reminder for you as well, just in case you also turned off your terminal. And now we're watching the changes. So let's save it again. And we see that it's processing and updated our application at SCSS. So one thing we actually still forgot to do is let's go back into our theme.liquid, and we need to add CSS here at the end. So let's close that now, and we'll go back to our product page, and there we go. So now our CSS is actually registering properly. So this all looks pretty good, but we still need the title at the top, and then the description in the middle, and then we also need to style this. And then we'll come back to this product image as well once we start working on the collection page. So let's go back inside our code, and we'll grab the product description container, and we want this to display flex. And then the flex direction, we'll say column. And justify content will be space between. Okay, that looks pretty good. The next thing will be the product description. And we'll give it the width of 50%, and then margin bottom 30 pixels. Okay, it's starting to look a little bit closer. Now let's deal with the product title because it's a little bit too small right now. So we can do product title, and then we'll say margin bottom equals 100 pixels and font size 24 pixels. And then the text transform, we want it to be uppercase, because if we look at the example website, we see that the title is uppercase. Okay, looks pretty good, but we're definitely using a different font. So we're going to deal with the font in a bit. Let's finish up with some of these before. Now let's go into the add to cart form, because we want to actually start styling some of the product option row. And we can just go into the product option row, and we can see that we have the whole product option row which is the whole container. And then we have the label and the product option list here. So inside of our application.css, we'll grab the product option row, and then we'll give it the position relative, and then we'll do user select none. And what the user select none does is that the user can't highlight it. So because it's going to be kind of like a button, so users can't just go like that. As you can see here, it acts sort of like a button. And I think that's a pretty good base for us right now. I definitely want to jump into styling the header before I finish up the product page, just because it's going to make more sense there. And we can add things like the font as well and some of the general styling. So I'll see you in the next video where we're going to jump into styling the header.